Hi, I'm Rob Musselman. I'm the owner of EnDuro Covers, and I'm going to show you how to install an EnDuro cover. When you get your EnDuro cover, the first thing you want to do is unpack it and inspect it for any damage. In your EnDuro cover package, you will find your rails, the hood, the EnDuro cover material, and a package containing the nuts, bolts, clamps, and screws. When you unpack your EnDuro cover, be careful not to scratch the paint of your cover or damage the vinyl canvas. Once you've unpacked your EnDuro cover, we will arrange the pieces in order to ease for installation. The first step is to align the rails such that they are about the same width as the truck bed. In the canvas material, you're going to find your locking handle. You need to remove the lock. To remove the lock, all you need to do is to remove that screw right there. So you've taken the lock off. We'll put the screw back in the lock so that we don't lose the screw. We'll then put the lock somewhere safe. Now you're ready to begin the installation process. So all you need to do is align the vinyl, starting with the driver's side. You want to slide your handle through the end cap, and you're going to pull it tight. Okay, now it's seated in position. Trick here is you need to make sure that the vinyl material is aligned on top of the drip guard. So the drip guard is the little curved piece of metal on the inside of the rail. You just want to make sure that the vinyl material runs on top of that, and that the ratchet is firmly seated into the driver's end cap. Do the same thing with the passenger side. So now that you've got your vinyl material between the two end caps, simply pull the cover out about 6 to 12 inches. Okay, so the next step then is to install the EnDuro cover hood. To install the hood, this hole aligns with the locking pin and it just snaps over the end caps. With the hood aligned on the cover, you want to make sure that the holes are lined up, so the holes in the end cap are aligned with the holes in the hood. You then need your screws, and we'll begin to put the screws together. So the first hole you want to start with is at the front of the EnDuro cover, just below the locking pin. So we'll put that screw in. Second screw that we'll then put in is the one that is at the rear of the cover. And we'll do that on both sides first. So with the screws in on both sides at the front and the back, we now need to put in the screws that are at the top. To put in the screws that are at the top, it may be necessary to lift the cover up and push the top of the end cap in so that the holes align properly. Before we put the cover on the truck, we're going to install the lock. That includes putting the locking cap, onto the handle. So to put the locking cap on the handle, simply take the empty end, slide it over the handle, and then install your lock. Screw just goes in to hold it together. Now that your cover is assembled, you'll need the help of a friend to pick it up and put it on the truck before it can be clamped on. So I've got my friend. He's going to help me. We're going to pick it up. We'll just walk around the truck. So we've centered the EnDuro cover on the truck. We now want to install the foam tape. So to do this, what we need to do is we need to slide back the EnDuro cover just about a foot. This is your roll of foam tape. You're going to put it along the front rail. Its purpose is to keep water from running between the rail and the hood. So to align the foam tape, first we need to locate the foam tape that's on the underside of the rail. We will then line up the foam tape for the front rail against the foam tape along the bottom side. Run it across the front rail and then cut it off on the other side at the same distance. Now that the foam tape's installed, we want to recenter the hood. Center it, so we'll lift up the EnDuro cover. We'll put it back to where we had located the center before. Check both sides to make sure it's centered properly. Now that the cover's centered, we're ready to begin clamping the EnDuro cover to the truck. Now that we have the rails in place, we want to take our bolts and we want to slide the bolts down the T-slot. So now we've got the bolts in position, we're ready to install our clamps. So we want to install our clamps with the long side of the clamp to the inside of the truck box and the short side of the clamp to the outside. We're going to start with the clamps at the rear of the truck. So the clamp just slides on. Now I'll take our flat washer, followed by our locking washer, followed by a 1/2 inch nut. Okay, we'll do the same thing on the other side of the truck. So we've got the back clamps on. Now we want to ensure that the EnDuro cover is running smooth. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull out the cover and we're going to test it. So the first thing we need to do to test the EnDuro cover is to pull the locking pin out to allow the cover to run smooth. To pull the locking pin out, simply pull it and turn it counterclockwise a 1/4 turn. So as we've started to pull the cover back, you can see that it's running a little bit outside this track. Reason for that is we're not properly aligned with the side of the truck. So to correct this, all we want to do is simply pull this side in a little bit further. So we're just going to apply pressure to the inside. Okay, it's now flush with the outside of the cover. At this point, we want to just snug up our clamps. You can tell that your EnDuro cover is properly aligned when the rear metal piece of the EnDuro cover is about a 1/4 inch from the inside of the drip guard. It should just be running snug with just a little bit of play in there. Your EnDuro cover will align with the notch on the underside of the metal strip at the back of the rail, interlocking with the notch on the underside of the rail. So we now have the back piece of the EnDuro cover interlocked with the rails. We now want to test it, make sure that the cover is pulling straight and that it gets nice and tight and the cover doesn't have any ripples in it. So to use your EnDuro cover, pull your handle out. Okay, you're going to pull it out and turn it clockwise until you feel the handle interlock with the ratchet on the inside. You then want to apply pressure. Once you've applied pressure, the locking pin goes back in, so pull your locking pin out, turn it back to center, and apply pressure. Now that we see that the cover is properly tensioned, we want to ensure that it hasn't moved, so we're just going to double check, make sure it's still centered on the truck. Okay. So I've confirmed that the EnDuro cover is fitting square on the truck, so now we're going to tighten up our clamps. Okay, first thing we need to do though is pull the cover back in. Okay, to do this, pull the handle out, interlock it with the ratchet, and we need to apply tension to the cover so that we can pull the locking pin out. If you don't apply tension, you won't be able to pull the pin. And we want to pull the EnDuro cover out, lift it up, and slide it forward. So we've aligned the EnDuro cover on the truck, we've centered it, we know that it's in the position that we want. So now what we need to do is tighten down the clamp so that it doesn't move. Okay. So we've already put the rear clamps in, now we want to put the front clamps in. It's the same thing, clamp, long piece to the inside, short piece to the outside. So now we've got all the clamps installed, finger tight. We're going to pull the cover out one more time, test it, make sure everything's still running good. So we've pulled out the cover. We've checked to make sure that everything's aligned properly. Okay, again, double checking that the outside of the cover is properly aligned, so basically flush with the outside corner of the truck. Everything's connected. Now what we want to do is just tighten down the clamps. So now that we have all the clamps tightened down, we're going to test the EnDuro cover one final time. There you have it. We've confirmed that the truck cover is properly centered side to side and front to back. It's got good tension on the cover. It's running nice and flat. Your installation's complete.